On today's show, Kyrie is one of the best second stars in the entire NBA. But is he the best one? No. But I'll tell you who is on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even help it.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. Making Locked On Mavs your first listen today, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform, leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. And joining me from the great Slightly Biased YouTube channel, He Dem Boys. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
My background image says it all.
Just the cowboy mascot, dejected and sad, hunched over.
Yep. No need to say anything else.
It's tough. You want Jerry? What do you want Jerry to do now?
I don't think I can say it on this podcast.
Today, what we can say on the podcast is we're going to rank the second best player on each team. So the second star, essentially, on each team. Yesterday with Isaac, we ranked the best player on each team. So there was sort of like a back and forth on who's the best player, who's the second best player. We'll talk about that, talk about some of the disagreements we had on who should be considered in this group. And we'll talk about what makes a good second star and where everybody ranks in here, who has the best, second star in the NBA. But let's start here slightly. Kyrie Irving. To me, he's one of the best second stars in the NBA. When I started to go through this list, it was hard for me to find guys that were higher than Kyrie. He does a lot of things for you. He scores when you need to. He can go off for a 20-point quarter. We have a board bet right now that he'll have, 12 20-point quarters, because that's how many he had last year, where he just goes off and all of a sudden puts you in a really good advantage, puts you in a really good spot. He can play on the ball. He can play off the ball. He can run a second unit. He can make plays. He can play defense when he steps up and needs to play some defense. He does. He can go grab you a big rebound. We saw him do that all throughout the season. You can go to the NBA Finals with him as your second star. We've seen that in multiple iterations of Kyrie Irving on teams. And so you look at Kyrie and you're like, all right, he brings pretty much everything you want a second star to do. Also, the temperament is there. He's cool with being the second star, which I think is maybe one of the most important things about being a second star, is that you're okay with being that second star and deferring to that main guy. What do you see from Kyrie that makes him such a great second star?
Well, I think the idea of a second star, because we were talking before, like second star to me just has a different ring than second best player, because there's expectations out of a second star to do things offensively. And if the first star are the other team's best player, some of these teams don't have stars. So if player one,
the second stars goes until about like halfway down this list, and then they're not stars anymore.
Yes. We're using star very loosely here.
Yeah.
But you get what we're getting at. Because the idea is basketball, you need at least 2 stars to be a competitive basketball team. So somebody who can carry the load offensively if the first guy's out, or can just play right alongside the first guy seamlessly. And that is what Kyrie Irving brings. I mean, great on ball, great off ball. If Luka's out, he can play. The Mavericks stagger their minutes, so Kyrie's leading the offense for a good chunk of the time he's on the court. He's great. I mean, that's like a perfect role for him in Dallas right now.
Yeah, and that he's accepted that role and that he's been really good in that role. They made the finals with him in that role was awesome. And honestly, they lost the finals because he wasn't as great as he had been all the way up until that point. And so, give him credit and also give him blame in the same sentence for how they did. So if you didn't listen to yesterday's show, one of the things that Isaac and I did was we picked who's the best player on each team. And so we'll start the ranking right here. We had Jaylen Brown along with Jason Kidd. We had Jaylen Brown as the best player on the Celtics. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that decision in a minute. You disagree? Actually, go ahead. You disagree with it. Even though Jason Kidd, the head coach of your Dallas Mavericks, said that he's the best player. He won the Eastern Conference MVP. He won the Finals MVP. I think he's the best player on the team.
I mean, I just think Tatum is better. I just think he's a better basketball player through and through. I mean, Brown had a better last 2 series of the postseason for sure, and Tatum's jump shot has abandoned him entirely. And if Tatum has another year where he's shooting 30 to sub 30% on jumpers, then we could start to have this conversation, I think, a little bit more. But I would still have Tatum ahead of Jaylen Brown, but I don't think there's that big of a gap really.
And he shot 38% on threes last year on 8 a game. So it's not like it completely abandoned him. I just think what Brown does defensively is more impactful than the higher, like the more advantage that Tatum gives you offensively. That's where I am with it.
Yeah, okay. I like Tatum's versatility defensively.
And so easily though, Tatum goes number 1 for me on this list.
All right, not me.
Whoa, okay, where are you number 1?
Well, I don't have Tatum. If Tatum,
no, we have to go off the same list, so you have to have Tatum.
All right, well, if Tatum's there, then I would have Tatum number 1.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I disagree with it. I disagree with Tatum being the second star.
That's fine. Number 2 for me was Kevin Durant. I went with Kevin Durant. Great scorer. Great in in a bunch of different ways. He's very versatile. I think the team construct is sort of like doing a disservice to him right now with how the Suns are made. Like he's asked to defend a lot more, play the 5. Like I don't know if you want him doing that. It'd be great if he could play next to a Draymond type or a really good defensive 4 or something like that. But I still have Kevin Durant too.
All right. Well, this is where I disagree with immediately. I had Devin Booker 1 on my list because I think that KD is the best player on the Suns.
Okay.
And so if we were going KD and Tatum are the options, I would go KD 1, Tatum 2 then. Would be my
I sent you the list, right?
I know you did, but then for some reason in my brain, I was like, no, I don't think this guy's the second best player. And then I would go in and change it myself. But yes, if that's the way we're going with it, yes.
You'd go KD over Tatum right now.
Yeah.
What makes you want to take Tatum over? What makes you want to take Durant over Tatum?
Just think he's a more efficient offensive player. I think he's legitimately still, even in his older age, an unstoppable offensive presence. Tatum is not that. I think Kevin Durant's just a more complete basketball player currently. I mean, we're talking about KD's maybe like the 5th or 6th best player in the league for me right now, and Tatum's maybe 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
So they're close.
Number 3, I went LeBron James, which was a disagreement that some people had too, but we'll talk about that one in a minute.
Yeah, I would have him in the top 3 as well.
And then I have Kyrie. I have Kyrie as the fourth best second player on another team. You can go back and forth with, like LeBron, Durant, Tatum, like how you rank those guys. But to me, I think Kyrie pretty much easily comes in at 4th.
Yep, I had Kyrie as 4 on mine as well, even with the different players that I had accidentally.
Which says a lot about a guy like that, because the guys above him are all rangy wings with, that defend and have been on some defensive teams that, with LeBron and play make and do all that. Like Kyrie is one of the highest level second stars in the NBA.
Yeah, Kyrie is an all-NBA. Like, if Kyrie played 60, what is it, 65 games last year?
Yeah.
They would never give it to him. But there would have been an interesting all-NBA conversation to be had for Kyrie Irving last year. That's the level he played at, which means he was a top 15 player last year. So, yeah, I mean, this sounds right to me. He's like in that 15 to 20 range. Is there anybody
you thought about putting ahead of them? Because I went back and
Honestly,
forth.
No.
Yeah, I went back and forth a little bit between him and Lillard, and I was like, okay, they're like very similar, but I'd rather have Kyrie and what he does than what Lillard, especially last year.
I have Dame lower. Dame wouldn't have been one of the guys I considered.
Who was somebody
Bam was 5th for me.
Bam was an interesting one that I kind of went back and forth on.
And if anyone follows me knows that I absolutely adore Bam on a bio, but I just can't. Kyrie's offensive production is just way better for a second star. And then I had Maxey 6th before Dame. So, and I'd rather have Kyrie than Maxey, I think.
But we both are in agreement that Kyrie Irving is the 4th best second star in the NBA. If you would have, let's just do this. If you would have changed any of those guys, let's say you would have put LeBron as the best player and AD as the second best player, would you have changed the ranking at all?
No, because on my rankings where I had the 3 first guys that we all mentioned were different players, I still had Kyrie 4th.
Yeah, that's true. All 3 of them are different. All 3 of them are different players.
I still had Kyrie 4th.
Great.
And what's interesting is I can't try to convince myself that Kyrie should go ahead of any of those guys.
No. Yeah, I couldn't either. I think that they all bring a little bit more to the game. I think they obviously the size just changes a lot of things, and Kyrie's held back by size in that scenario. And we're going Kyrie, 4th best second star in the NBA. I'm glad we agree on that. Coming up, let's talk about the rest of the list. Where does everybody else follow suit? Where was everybody else rank? The other teams in the Western Conference, where are we on them? Let's talk about them coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA to go anywhere. so many different places you can go to: sporting events, concerts, comedy, music, theater. I've used it for all those different things. And right now you can go and use Game Time. Its curation makes it easier to save on sports, concert, comedy, theater. The all-in pricing is a super great feature that I love. I use it all the time, where you turn on the all-in pricing and you see the actual total up front. There's no surprise fees at checkout. It's not like it's going to be $100. And when you get to the checkout, it's $300. How did that even happen? It doesn't happen anymore if you use the all-in pricing. Get views from your seat, all different stuff like that on Game Time. Love using it. And I just love perusing it and just seeing, all right, where are tickets and where are they going to drop, all that kind of stuff. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use that code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. For your second listen today, go check out Locked On NBA. No off season for us. We've got myself on there on Thursdays. We will be covering everything in the NBA, wherever you're listening, watching this, YouTube, Spotify, all that. Subscribe to Locked On NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Slightly, we're ranking the second best player on each team. We've already had several disagreements on players, especially each of the top three that we have. But we agreed Kyrie was the fourth best one, so we're in a pretty good spot there. The other disagreements that we had on players, Memphis. Jaren Jackson, I went with Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja being the number one player, who we ranked yesterday, and Jaren Jackson Jr. being the second best player, but you're kind of iffy on that one.
I think Desmond Bane has a real argument. But I just, for me, Jaren Jackson Jr. offensively, and this kind of goes back to what we were saying at the top, where it's like second star, I feel like means something different than second best player. It's just semantics, and it's just how my brain works. But Bane in this season without John Morant was playing like a legitimate all-star until he got injured. And then Jaren Jackson Jr., I just didn't love the season he just had. I know that it's not really fair to judge him because he's playing so outside of his like usual role on the team, getting a 30% usage rate. But there's just times offensively where I watch Jaren Jackson Jr. and just hate what I'm watching. And defensively, he blocks a lot of shots, but I don't think he's really a perennial defensive player of the year guy.
Like he got his one in that.
He got his one. He had to get it because the Grizzlies were good and he had just an insane amount of blocks, but no one in their right mind would put him into level of a defender that like a Victor Wembanyama is currently.
And some of those blocks may not even have been accurate, right?
Well, it's funny because I went back and I did a whole video where I looked at all of his blocks and they all looked legitimate to me.
Were you the guy on Reddit? You're the guy that posted that on Reddit?
No, I was not the guy who posted that on Reddit.
Okay, so Kyrie, we both had Kyrie at 4. We both basically had the same players in the top 4. I went with Lillard at 5. I still think I would go with the offensive engine. That sort of breaks the tie for me. I went with Lillard at 5. You had Bam Adebayo at 5. I had Bam just a little lower, but not too low. I went with Jamal Murray at 6. I'm expecting a Jamal Murray like bounce back. He was still good last year, just not as great in the playoffs. But I know you're worried about Jamal Murray this year. Where did you end up having Jamal Murray?
I had him 10th, so not that low. I had Bam Adebayo 5th. Maxey 6th. Then I went with Dame 7th.
Yep.
So then I had Spicy P at 8.
Wow. Okay.
And
at 8?
J-Dub at 9.
I also had J-Dub at 9.
I think people forget that Siakam was an All-NBA guy 2 years ago. Like, Siakam is a really, really good basketball player. And I did specifically think about Jamal Murray versus Siakam. I thought to myself, Siakam's made All-Star games. Siakam's been an All-NBA guy. Jamal Murray's never done any of those things. So I just think Siakam is a better basketball player than Jamal Murray is.
I think I underthought Jamal. I think I underthought about Siakam because I started to think about, all right, who impacts the ball on a certain side? Like who brings something elite to one side of the ball? And I just couldn't think of what Siakam brought that was elite at one side of the ball or the other. And so I had a couple of guys ahead of him. And now I'm rethinking that you had him that high. But yeah, go for Spicy P.
It's just that's been the Spicy P thing is he doesn't. I mean, everyone makes fun of the Beyblade stuff, the spin move over and over for Siakam, but he's just a good basketball player. He's not like super good at any one particular thing, but he just does a lot of things really well.
Yeah. I had Tyrese Maxey at 7, Bam at 9, or Bam at 8. I had Jalen Williams at 9, so we both had the exact same 9, so that was cool. I went this player. I went back and forth, just did not know where to put James Harden. I had him at 10. Did not know what to do with him, just because seeing him in the playoffs, he was very good in the playoffs. And the regular season, he played his role, and so his scoring numbers are down, his assist numbers are a little down from some past years, but I still think he's an effective player. And we're doing this just next season, like just give me one season, not like who you take on from here on out. And so I want James Harden at 10.
I had James Harden at 13, so close.
Okay,
and I agree with you. I think that he's probably better currently than most people would say he is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But he's like, not the James Harden that,
It's like the Gobert of guards right now.
Yeah, he is. He's probably like a little overhated at this point, and everyone just assumes he's very washed up, but you watch him, he's like, no, he's still pretty good. It's just not, 40 points a game, James Harden.
So I had James Harden at 10. You had Jamal Murray at 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't really almost have the same top 10 in players, but we're one off there. I had Jaren Jackson at 11.
I have him at 17. But I mean, it's not like you look at who's around him, and these are all good players.
This is why Isaac always does tiers for these. He always puts them in
tiers is the best way to do it.
In groupings, because it's just hard. Like this group of Murray, Maxey, Bam, Jalen Williams, Harden. Like they're just all these guys are all kind of in a similar clump right here, where it just depends on the season that they have. Who do you think of this group that we're talking about right now is primed to have like the best season this year?
Well, I think in my mind it's somebody we haven't talked about who I have 11th on my list.
Go.
That's Franz Wagner.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I had Franz Wagner at 17. So Jaren Jackson and Franz, we literally have flipped.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in him. He's very, very, very good at basketball, and I think people this is how it happens a lot of times, where if you have a recent playoff performance, especially in an elimination game, and it's a stinker.
Oh, like Klay Thompson just did?
Like Klay Thompson, yes, that's another prime example that we kind of throw out everything that we thought we knew about you, and that is who you are as a player now. He went 1 of 15 in that game. Was that a game 7? Yeah, game 7 against the Cavs with 5 points or 6 points.
Tough.
So that's sort of fresh in all of our memories of Franz Wagner, and somebody who shot like 18% from 3 after the All-Star break.
Tough.
But he does everything so well on the basketball court. He's an incredible defender, a great finisher, great at getting to the rim, good playmaker. And if that 3 ball can just get, 33, 34, 35%, I think he could be an all-star this year. Seriously.
Wow. It was before. He shot 36% from 3 his second year. So the year before last, 35 first year, and then just 28% last year. It was just the big dip right there. His contract sort of caught a lot of people off guard this offseason. It was almost remember like Devin Vassell's, where everybody went, wait, what? Like Devin Vassell's getting this deal, but what did he sign? He signed
there's a max, wasn't it? The rookie scale max, $250 mil.
So he's gonna make 38 next season, 41, 44, 40, 47, then 51 in 2029, 2030.
Yeah. I mean, that's we talked about the sticker shock stuff here. That's like with the cap going up, these contracts are going to get egregiously large, and you're going to see it and just be like, oh my God. That's how much he's getting?
You had the sticker shock Franz at 11. I had Jaren Jackson at 11. I had your boy Sabonis at 12.
That's exactly where I have him.
Okay. I'm surprised we have him in the same spot. I think Kings fans may have Sabonis ahead of De'Aaron Fox, as like Sabonis is the best player, Fox is the second best player. I went back and forth.
I can get it, but I will just rather have the guard.
That's where I am with it. I'd rather have the offensive, like creator, and then I'd rather have the guy that you can put the ball in his hands, the clutch player of the year last year. I'd rather have that than the handoff merchant.
Yeah, the DHO merchant. But I'm working on a rough copy of my top 100 list to do before every season, and those two are always like I might have one 20th in the NBA and the next one like 21st in the NBA or something like that. So
we almost have the same top 12. There's a couple players different, but coming up, let's get into where we are with some of these other guys. Names we haven't heard yet. Draymond Green, we haven't heard. Where any of the Rockets guys are, some of the other guys in the conference with the Mavericks, some other West players. We haven't heard of a Timberwolf, a Wolf yet. Let's talk about some of those names coming up.
I don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds that you can use to get in on the action. Hey, NFL fans, if you're like slightly biased and you like the Dallas Cowboys and you want a different reason to care about the Dallas Cowboys than maybe the results of the game, you can get a hunch in the middle of a game, and you can just check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So $200 in bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All kinds of different props and odds that you can use on FanDuel. They've got Cowboys Giants. Your Cowboys are 4.5-point favorite opening against the Giants. That one's on the road. Hopefully that one goes a little bit better for Cowboys fans. FanDuel.com. Go check it out. FanDuel.com. Place $5. Get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Slightly Biased. We're ranking the second best player on each team. We have both have Kyrie at number 4, which I was grateful that we both agreed there. And now we're going through the list. So far, I've done Tatum, Durant, LeBron, Kyrie, Lillard, Jamal Murray, Tyrese Maxey, Bam Adebayo, Jalen Williams from OKC, James Harden, Jaren Jackson Jr., Domantas Sabonis, and my number 13 player is Evan Mobley.
I have Mobley 18th.
Okay, it's like what, 5 spots? It's not.
Yeah, and again, the tier list thing where it's like if you were to make an argument that Mobley should be 13th or whatever, I'm not going to sit here and actually argue with you.
The thing with Mobley is the offensive game is still kind of like
hypothetical,
and so, but the defense is definitely there. But then he also plays next to Jared Allen, and so you're going, okay, well, how much is it? We're gonna have an interesting time with our center duos we're gonna do on Thursday, where it's like, do you count him as the center duo even though he's the starting 4 for the team? Like, what do you do with him? So, but yeah, Evan Mobley is an interesting name, and we have Evan Mobley because I asked Danny Cunningham, Locked On Cavs, and he said it should be Evan Mobley, not Garland, not Jared Allen, the second best.
Yeah, I could maybe see an argument for Jared Allen. Garland would have been the guy maybe before the season, but I don't think you can make that argument anymore after the season he just had.
I have Siakam at 14, so that's where our big difference is. You have him at 8, I have him at 14. Who do you have at 14?
14, I put the Knicks one. We had Julius Randle mentioned, but I have Julius Randle / Mikal Bridges, who I think would be really close.
The Knicks player. Julius Randle's such a weird one, too. He's been on 2 All-NBA teams.
Yeah, I mean, he's really good. But it is like...
It's very rare.
But it's we know that you're statistically one of the worst postseason players we've ever seen. So what am I supposed to do with this information?
I don't know. So yeah, okay. So you went with Julius Randle. I had Julius Randle at 18, so not a big difference there. I had Towns at 15.
That's where I have him.
There you go. We're right there.
Towns / Gobert. I didn't know.
I ended up going with Towns over Gobert as the second best player on the Timberwolves.
It's, again, the second star. You usually want some offensive stuff, so Cat makes sense there.
And then I had Draymond Green at 16.
That's exactly where I had him.
There you go. Okay, so we have the exact
Draymond's
same.
A tough one.
It's a very tough one to land, but he still impacts the game so much that you go, all right, I got to put him somewhere. So we have the exact same players in the top 18 spots.
Yep. Yeah.
Sweet.
Wow.
19, I went with Brandon Ingram.
That's exactly who I have. 19 as well. The disgruntled Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. I don't know where he's going to play. I guess he's going to play in New Orleans still. It just seems up in the air, but it's fine.
We'll see.
I had Fred VanVleet of the Rockets.
That's who I had here.
At 20, let's go. We did not tell each other these lists. I want to make that very clear. I had Devin Vassell of the Spurs at 21.
It's funny because I went back and forth with Vassell, like planting my flag on the Vassell hill and having him a little bit higher, but I couldn't really justify.
Yeah, like who
the guys ahead of him.
VanVleet has won a title and he's impactful and on both sides of the ball. Brandon Ingram, same kind of thing. But I guess
your argument could be the Brandon Ingram experience is going to go so wrong this year that maybe you would just rather have the Devin Vassell.
Yeah, because if we're asking who would you want this year, well, Brandon Ingram may not be the player you want this year. But
all right, I'll be shocked if we get the next 3 correct.
Okay, 22. I had Brandon Miller.
All right, that's where I have Brandon Miller as well. Well, I know for a fact it's not gonna be 23 because I put somebody who I didn't think wasn't on the list.
Okay, I put Emmanuel Quickly.
All right, I had Emmanuel Quickly 24, but at 23 I put Jalen Johnson.
Okay, I wanted to put Jalen Johnson on this list as the second best player on the Atlanta Hawks. And then I went to Brad Rowland, our Locked On Hawks guy, and was like, who's the second best player on the Hawks? And he said, by the end of the year, it may be Jalen Johnson, but right now it's still Bogdan Bogdanovic. So I was like, okay, well, I'll put Bogdan there. I think I would have had Jalen Johnson in this similar kind of place.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I just think Jalen Johnson in the 50 games or whatever we saw from him this past season showed so much upside.
Yeah.
Where Bogdan had a great season. I mean, a really, really good season. At 32 years old, you know who Bogdan is. Right.
And I'm okay with it, but he's not
still really good.
So I'll let you get away with that one. We'll
infamous, slightly unplugged trick, Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Oh, so great. So great. If you missed that stream, Slightly didn't know what happened in entire free agency, and I convinced him that Bogdan was a Dallas Maverick.
That one was... I didn't really buy into that one because I had already known Clay and Najee were on the team because you already told me that, and I was like, and Bogdan? Like, how is this even going to work?
24 had Kobe White.
I had Emmanuel Quickly at 24. So
okay. And
I think Kobe White at 25.
I did not know what to do with Kobe White. 25, I had Jeremy Grant.
26, I had Jeremy Grant.
Shot the ball really well last year.
Yeah, I mean, just second best player is not really what you want.
This bottom group is just, this is a 26. I had Detroit Pistons. Their second best player is Tobias Harris.
All right, see, so I had them dead last.
You had him last,
which is shocking because I am a Tobias Harris defender, but second best player is probably not what you want to see.
Some of these things are not what I want to see either. I had Bogdan at 27. I had Colin Sexton at 28.
I had Colin Sexton at 27.
And then I had Jordan Poole at 29.
Same.
At 29. And then I refused to put Nets players on this list. So for the best player ranking, Isaac and I put Nets player number 1 because I'm not gonna put Cam Thomas or whoever else, Nick Claxton, on this list. I'm just not. So I'll put
it's interesting because
Nets player number 2.
I thought for sure they'd be dead last, and then I thought more, and I was like, well, if it's Nick Claxton, that's actually like a pretty good player. So like, I'd rather have Nick Claxton than Jordan Poole or Tobias Harris. So I had them 28, and then Jordan Poole and Tobias Harris.
I think I'd be with you on that one. So yeah, any surprise? And what was the surprising one where you ranked it and you go, oh, I was actually surprised that he was that high or that low?
Well, I think people, especially who watch me at all, it's Sabonis at 12, but he is still a good basketball player. My qualm with Sabonis is I don't think you could really win a lot with a player like that at the center of your team. So that's really where it's at with me.
And they haven't won a playoff series, so
they have not won a playoff series. I don't know if he's ever won a playoff series in his career. I'm trying to think back to those Pacers teams. I don't think they did.
Maybe when he was like a baby on the Thunder.
Maybe, but I don't even think those teams did either because didn't Russ not win a series at all after KD left?
Yeah, he's gone. He went 7 games in 2018 for Indiana. What was that? That was Cavs Pacers in 2018.
Oh yeah, that series went 7. Oladipo was going crazy.
And then he went 7 in 2023 for the Kings.
Yeah. And not necessarily all his fault, obviously. Not on very good teams, but still.
Yeah.
I was a little. So Harden, I would say Harden and Draymond were the 2 hardest players for me.
Very tough.
Because he's still good. Harden is still very good.
But he's also going to be old. Like
he's going to be older.
36.
He's just a negative on defense through and through. And Draymond, opposite almost, where it goes against everything I've said about the second star, where it's like you want your second star to be able to do things and score offensively. And Draymond, while he doesn't score, he's still a great playmaker, and like the offense kind of runs through him. He's very much almost a point guard of that team in a lot of ways. But defensively, I mean, you just can't ignore every defensive impact metric that there is. It's like, hey, Draymond is still like one of the best to ever do it defensively.
You just look at their team when he plays and when he doesn't, and just the difference is, I mean, it's undeniable.
It is insane. He's just, there's so much better when he plays.
Yeah. So there you go. I'll send a list to the Mavs insiders, the people that subscribe. I'll send our list to them. And Kyrie Irving, 4th best second star in the NBA. I feel pretty good about that. I feel pretty confident. Tomorrow, Isaac and I will rank the best star duos. We're not doing every team. We're just doing the best star duos. We're just doing what star duos are.
Not Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton?
Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton will be nowhere near this list that we do tomorrow. So are Luka and Kyrie the best star duo in the NBA? We'll talk about that tomorrow. Slightly and I on Thursday will do the best center duos. So starter and a backup. And we'll do those on Thursday. So come back and hang out with us on there. Wherever you're listening, watching this, subscribe, follow on Instagram, all that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom!
We them boys.